So let's get on to the last planet, Pluto, which has a 248-year cycle. It's a very irregular cycle because Pluto has an eccentric orbit around the Sun. So it's in sun signs for only 12 years and other signs for 40 years, which is pretty odd. And right now it's in Capricorn from 2008, I think, to 2024, 16-year period. And that has had a lot of effect on banking and the economic crisis. So Pluto is basically known for bringing crisis and transformation. In other words, when Pluto comes to a planet, there's a sense that it cannot continue as it is, whatever that planet's representing. But because one is completely attached to that planet, you know, it's something you've been doing for years and years and years, it's very difficult. So there's a crisis that results. So let's say you had Mercury, your planet of communication, in the 10th house, which would be very good for business. And Pluto came to Mercury. Well, all the business skills, the connections you made with Mercury, networking and things like that would somehow be affected by Pluto. There's no compromise with Pluto. You can't sort of, it's not like Saturn where you sort of say, well, it's a problem, but I can overcome it. Pluto demands the elimination of dead material. So you cannot continue with the conditions, the existing conditions. Pluto identifies, in fact, what it is you've been doing that no longer has true life. So you have to prune it, at the least. You have to change something. The things that are no longer meaningful for you, you have to get rid of. But it's very difficult to do that because often the things that you have to get rid of are things you're very attached to, things you think you need for your survival. But in the end, your survival depends on getting rid of them. And it's that terribly difficult decision to make, to get rid of something to which you've been attached for a long time, and not to know what's going to replace it. So it's like getting pushed to the edge of an abyss. There's a tiger coming after you. And you think, well, you know, and it's dark. And you think, well, shall I wait for the tiger? I can't do that. I'm going to have to jump. And you jump. And it's not as bad as you think. So when you make the transition, the transformation, the change, it's much better than it was before. You know, but you don't think that at the time. So if Pluto comes to your Sun, people describe this like they enter a tunnel. They think that tunnel is never going to end. They say, is there light at the end of the tunnel? And there is light, and the tunnel comes to a much better place. They just need reassurance, you know. But it just takes such a long time. And in that process of time, you need maybe some help. So quite a lot of people get into therapy. It's excellent for therapy and great for reading about psychology and learning about psychology and acquiring psychological skills, because Pluto is like a dredger which dredges up material that has been like in your system or in your life for years and years and years. And it's poisoning you, really. So it's dredging it up, and you have to purge yourself of this. And psychologically speaking, that's why therapy is so good. Of course, something has to cause these crises, and often it's because somebody turns up. You have to be pretty careful with the people you meet during a Pluto transit. For example, if a woman is single and Pluto comes to their Mars, and Mars represents men, sexuality, desire, there will almost certainly be a very magnetic and sexually obsessive man that comes into the woman's life at this particular period of time. And what's the point of that? Yeah, the woman has to discover her own power, her own sexuality, and she has to be able to, she probably will have to match up with the person, the man that's come into her life, and probably also throw him out again. Pluto to Mars, you discover your own survival power, and it's amazing. So, transformation and empowerment, that's what Pluto's all about. And I'd like to show a sort of more complicated transit now, which is affecting Vladimir Putin at the time I'm making this video. This is a period when upheaval in Ukraine was being promoted, you could say, by Putin, and threats of sanctions from the West were affecting him. But check this out. He's got the Sun in Libra in the 11th house, and it's 13 degrees 57. It's exactly the same place where Saturn is in America's horoscope. So what's actually happening is that Uranus is in Aries in this period, and it comes opposite his Sun 3 times. April 2014 is actually the time when Russian troops were massed on Ukraine's border, and there was a threat of invasion. That's when he took over Crimea, because Uranus to the Sun wants to take risks. He's ready to take a risk. And Uranus opposite the Sun, it's like in another country, it's opposite Russia, or it's some distance away. And note how in 2015, Pluto, which is square Uranus in this period, which is part of this economic crisis in the world, but it's a long period when Pluto and Uranus are square, and in 2015, Pluto comes square the Sun. This is a really threatening aspect, actually, and the effect of Pluto to the Sun is this is this entering into the tunnel, and you wonder when you're ever going to come out. So, however much Putin seems to be in control of things at the moment, and he'll probably survive until 2024, this is going to be the most precarious time in his presidency. And he is probably, although he's now taking these risks, next year he's probably going to be suffering from the consequences of it, in 2015 that is. And he'll be in some kind of crisis, and this crisis is going to go on for years, because Pluto is going to square the Sun, then Saturn, then Neptune, then Mercury. So from about 2015 to 2018, he's going to be in some kind of crisis. That would be enough to normally eliminate his position as a leader, but Russia being what it is, I doubt that will happen. It could do it though. Another aspect about this, these transits for Putin is that the 12th house here, where he has 3 planets and the Sun very close, is to do with imagination. And Pluto does awaken paranoia. So his sense of paranoia about the world being against him is going to be powerfully exacerbated in this period. So it's not very good for Putin at this time. Okay. There's one final thing I want to run through, and then we'll be finished with this 6-module course. It's the transits through the houses. Now, I'd love to spend more time with this, because they're so important. Basically, you can have Saturn, of course, which would take 30 years to go around through each of the 12 houses, and the Jupiter, which would take 12. And Saturn and Jupiter through each of the houses has a very important effect. For example, if Saturn goes through your 12th house, for example, and Saturn represents what you try and build up in life, and 12th house represents what kind of gets dissolved. Basically, what you with Saturn in the period of 2.5 years, when Saturn goes through the 12th house, what you build up in your 10th house, career, socially, etc., dissolves, and a new start happens when Saturn comes into your 1st house. So Saturn and Jupiter through the 12 houses is like a cycle of time, and a development, an evolution from beginning the first house to end the 12th house. Even more important and incredibly powerful are the transits of Uranus, Neptune and Pluto specifically over the ascendant, the IC, the 4th house cusp, the descendant, the 7th house cusp, and the MC, the 10th house cusp. These influences mark major changes in life. They're the most powerful influences. Just to give an example, if you sort of took Pluto over the 4th house, which is connected with the family and your roots, you'd probably move. There would be some kind of major change in the family. Somebody might come in. Pluto's like a cuckoo who comes into the nest. So sometimes, a cuckoo comes into the nest or gets thrown out of the nest. Sometimes some bad family or difficult family members are eliminated from your life. Very, very profound change. Or, for example, if Neptune came on your MC, which is your career point, the highest point of your goals, and Neptune's connected with dissolution, it's incredibly difficult to continue with the job that you've been in for years when Neptune comes on the MC. But you're very confused about what should you be doing. You want something meaningful. You want something that will give your life lasting enrichment. But what is it? And it takes a while to find out. And meanwhile, your career becomes less and less compelling for you. So there we are. That's the transits through the houses and the transits in aspect to the planets. Of course, it's a huge subject, but it's easy to test. All you need to do, get your ephemeris or your astrology program, look at your horoscope, start tracing these transits through your life. Get a book or search on the net for the meanings of these transits, get some software that can explain it, and you'll see that transits are the most amazingly predictable influences in astrology. You've got to know about transits. It's dead easy. You just got to know a little bit about the planets, a little bit about the chart, follow the movement of the planets. It's your life unfolding through time. So it's really enriching. So that's the 6-module course. I really hope that you've learned something from this and that you're going to start practicing and discovering that astrology has completely been underestimated in this particular period in history. Although it's like available on the net, people don't realize how incredibly powerful it is as a tool, politically, economically, in your personal life, spiritually. It's just so enriching. So please enjoy, please develop. Thanks.